Hey guys, welcome. Welcome to the PP1 podcast. It's a good time. It's Wednesday night. We got nothing else to do. There's a hockey game on that I haven't decided to turn on yet. So anything's possible. Maybe they're winning. Maybe they're losing. I don't even know. I'll tell you one thing for free. Canada and the U.S. men's side, they're not going to be playing anymore. But I mean, who really watched the men's side this time around? I personally didn't.
I was a bit interested. Just because there was some old faces on there and some young guys.
I saw Eric Stahl was on the team. That's about and Tambellini, which I would believe to be Jeff on the team. Yeah. We're joined. Wasn't?
No.
Ooh, that's again how much I know. So it is a PP1 podcast. We're on the Dean Blundell Network. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Hey, Spotify, Amazon, Google. We got off MySpace. I don't want to talk about it. And ICQ, I mean, there's some legal things going on there. But you know what? What we did manage to salvage is the great Daniel Wagner. You may know him as some basketballist. Vancouver is awesome. You've heard him ask some great questions in Canucks scrums. Some very interesting things. He's an OG of the Canucks Smealosphere. He gave me my big break, believe it or not. Maybe it was Harrison. I'm not sure. Whoever was hitting the links. But back in the day, folks, when I was blogging, trying to make a name for myself, they gave me the platform twice a week, and they made this happen. So really, thank you. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, we had our list of Canucks blogs that we would check regularly looking for fresh new content. And I mean, I remember you had a personality, which was nice because not all Canucks bloggers had one of those. And so
I got rid of it.
I certainly don't. So
I think I beg to differ. I would say you do. I would say you do. I mean, first and foremost, you're on the Muppets now. That's amazing.
Is this a visual podcast? Because that's like the opposite of what a podcast is supposed to be.
It's a live stream and a podcast. However you want it, however you would like to intake this.
I have joined the Muppets. I have always felt like I was a puppet of the establishment, so now I am making it official.
I love it. And also Ted is here. You may remember him from previous episodes. Ted, how are you?
All but two of them or something. I'm good.
Literally pretty much every single one, but a few. Yeah.
I'm pretty tired. We did some CrossFit today and then batting cage directly after. That was probably a mistake. My hands are pretty blistered and I still haven't got calluses back post Christmas. So I'm struggling a little. I'm struggling a lot. I'm easily the worst person in the class. It's getting pretty ugly. I need to do something about that.
I put mats away at speed skating today. It's harder than it sounds, folks. It's harder than it sounds. You got to put them on there. Sometimes they fall. They're kind of heavy once you get the 10th one on the top, and you're a moving target because you're on ice.
They made you put skates on?
No, shoes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's be serious here. I have one beef that I want to get off my chest. I was driving to work this morning. These are Ryanisms. I was driving to work this morning, and there's a new sports field by my house, and there's also a dog park, adjacent. That's a word meaning besides, and it was adjacent. I'm pretty sure. Daniel, feel free to correct me if I'm
kitty corner, if you will.
Yeah, no, not a kitty corner. It was side by side. Anyway, I'm driving by, and I see about 5 dogs running on the sports field. There's a dog park attached to the property, which is equally big, and they were all running. No dogs in the dog park. That bugged me. It really bugged me. I'm not gonna lie.
It just ruined your whole day.
I mean, it was definitely the beginning. That's for sure. There was other things that took place. I was hung up on by a customer today, so that was fun. Just living the dream. But then I was like, I get to talk Canucks today, and there's a lot to talk about. We're not going to talk about the spicy chicken sandwich this week.
I'm not feeling it. I tried it, Ryan. It's the same.
No, it's not. Daniel,
which spicy chicken sandwich are we talking
about? At Wendy's.
I've had it before.
So it's something recent. I believe they've changed their recipe to become spicier. Looks like we're having the chat.
I haven't had it recently, so I can't speak to any of that. But I remember it being fine.
Yeah, so it's better than fine. That's the point I'm trying to get across here. It's better. So next time, maybe spring for that spicy chicken. Think I'm going to see if Ryan's bang on or if he's a complete idiot. So
I mean, both could be true, right?
It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible. Folks, remember to tune in on YouTube and Facebook. You can comment along, and believe it or not, we might even post your comments if we so choose. Unless it's like hateful or something, then we won't do that. But if it's something that is worth talking about, we'll let you in. We'll let you in on the chat. And also, one more thing. I got Foo Fighters tickets.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to, and of all places, wait for it, folks. If you didn't know, they're playing in Penticton, the mecca of the Wait, you'd think Kelowna would be the mecca of the Okanagan, but you're wrong. It's the SOEC. That's where the good tunes happen now.
Well, I think Kelowna's the mecca, but I think Penticton by far puts on the best shows and has the best venue.
Better,
it's not even close.
Yeah,
better booking agency. Is that who books concerts? I'm not sure. Is it a booking
something
agency?
Like that. Daniel, are you a Foo Fighters fan?
I enjoy the Fighters. I enjoy the Foo.
Yeah,
combine them together. Like Dave Grohl. Yeah,
I think it's tough not to like Dave Grohl.
Yeah. I mean, he seems just like a really genuinely nice guy.
He does.
He writes some bangers. So yeah.
I mean,
one of a great drummer as well. Bangs the hell out of those skins.
He was in another band, I was told before this.
Yeah, Queens of the Stone Age, I believe it was.
Were they any good, this band?
Well,
obviously, if he's in the Foo Fighters now, it must not have done very much.
He switched to guitar,
I'm a big
too.
Nirvana
totally
fan.
Weird.
I will say I'm a big Nirvana fan. I've enjoyed them for many a year. So
he dabbled in. I think he dabbled in. Was it Them Crooked Vultures for a little bit? He's got that as his side hustle. Gotta like it when you've got a side hustle as a Hall of Fame rock and roller. Like, you know what? This isn't doing it for me. I need like a few months to just do my own thing. Like, this is your own thing. You moved away from the other one.
Was that his side hustle that was like kind of like bordering on like metal that he had released for a little while? Because he was into that too, I think, wasn't he?
Well, it was a super group with like wasn't them Crooked Vultures with like Josh Homme and all.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty banging. They got some good tracks as well. So yeah, but you know what? I decided we are going to talk about Canucks here. There's some other stuff we can get into later if Daniel chooses.
Yeah, like Daniel, who's your favorite Muppet?
Oh shoot, that is a great question.
Do you want to know right now?
I feel like we should.
I mean, like,
if I'm going to sit here and look at Fozzie Bear and Miss Piggy for the next hour, I want to know who your favorite Muppet is at least.
That's fair. I always end up kind of teetering between Gonzo and Ralph.
Yes.
I really enjoy Ralph. He's the most soulful of the Muppets. Like he sings, he plays piano, and he feels like he's got real emotional depth. But like Gonzo as well. Gonzo is just like Gonzo's an entertainer. He's willing to do anything to make you smile, make you laugh. But it feels like there's some sadness behind those puppet eyes. So like I like the Muppets that have a little bit of emotional depth to them.
Like maybe we'll see like a backstory movie that comes out in like 5 years.
Like, yeah, I mean like
Gonzo what you didn't know.
Gonzo
with the Wind or Gonzo with the Wind.
Gonzo Near and Far.
Yeah, I like that. Man. Ted, who's your favorite Muppet?
I'm a Gonzo guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say Gonzo or Fozzie.
Yeah.
I think it'd be hard to pass on those two. Everybody, I think when you're a kid, it's like, oh yeah, Animal's my favorite because he's the coolest, clearly, right? But then you get older, and it's like, when I was younger, I used to listen to Pac, but I'm bigger now. I listen to Biggie. There's more depth there, right? You know what I'm talking about?
You're saying there isn't depth to Tupac?
No, there's just more. There's just more with Biggie.
We might lose him here, Ted. He's on the ropes. He's on the ropes.
We've had this conversation. I'm hearkening back to an older joke, but yeah.
Okay.
Look, you can't go wrong with either. Like, let's be real. But when I was growing up, like, you were either one or the other because like everybody was caught up on this like East versus West thing, right?
Sure.
So Pac had all the feels, right, and Biggie had that flow. So now that I'm older, I just find myself listening to more Biggie, and I think maybe it's because I listened to the other side so much when I was younger. That's all.
Fair enough.
I'm a Nipsey Hussle kind of guy.
Oh yeah.
So I feel that's right in the middle.
What about? Do you have a preference?
Do you have a preference between Tupac and Biggie? I don't know. I find that I enjoy them both. Like I wasn't really invested in the whole East versus West Coast kind of thing. I don't know. I find like, especially now I look back and I go, yeah, they both have great songs. They both have great flow. They both like, I feel like I can't choose. And I know that's kind of a cop out, but I just enjoy the music, man. I just enjoy the music.
My favorite, and now is it Ralph or Rolf?
Rolf?
I thought it was like Rolf, and I could be wrong.
It's like ROWLF. Like there's a bit of like it's almost like a barking sound,
like a growl,
because he's a dog.
He's a dog. So that would be mine. That or Fozzie Bear. That's my combo.
Oh, sorry, I miss it. We're away from Pac and Biggie now. Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to bring it back. because I feel like we could be here for a while.
You're saying Ralph is your favorite rapper. Got it.
Yeah. We haven't even talked about the Super Bowl halftime show yet.
Mostly his B-sides. So
that's fair.
We'll get into the Super Bowl a little bit later because I feel like we're on a musical journey right now, and we can get back to that musical journey a little bit later. The Olympics have been pretty awesome, obviously, but it's the Canucks that you all came to see. Our favorite Canuck, who is now a Calgary Flame, Tyler Toffoli. Awful. This still hurts. The fact that he's now on his second team and he's going like closer and closer to just like pushing that button, like, here I am. You could have had me, and I'm one province over. Like he's now gonna. By the end of this, he's going to be in Edmonton. He'll be on McDavid's line for like a year. And that's just, I think, going to be the ultimate stinger, knowing that he made a full circle around and will never come back.
He'll end up with the Kraken as well at some point.
He will. He will, won't he?
Yep.
That's awful.
He's just going to end up just punishing the Canucks every single season for not re-signing him.
I don't like it.
He's destined to be the next Canuck killer.
I mean, he has to be. That's just the way it is. That's how the Canucks luck goes.
He's like Milan Hayduk.
Yeah, that guy was ridiculous versus Vancouver. How did you feel about this trade, Daniel? Because like we were talking about it. The first round top 10 protected pick, Emil Heineman, Tyler Pitlick, the fifth rounder, not next year but the year after next. I was reading around on some Calgary papers and was trying to like get a vibe of what the city was feeling. They feel like it's going to be a win-win trade for both sides. Did you feel like somebody won this deal very clearly, or do you feel like it was the right price for a guy like Tyler Toffoli?
You know what? I think it is the right price. My initial reaction was that it was like, oh, this is a lot. But then you look more at the pieces of it, and it's anchored around that first round pick. That's basically the primary piece. Everything else around it is just, little bits and pieces. Is Emil Heineman going to be anything? Maybe. He might end up being a bottom six forward in the NHL. Who knows? But, he's not like a blue chip prospect by any means. Tyler Pitlick is, a decent defensive forward that can play in the bottom six, but he's not really anything at all. That really feels like they're just doing that to make some of the cap hits work out. And then a fifth round pick, it's nice, but it's not anything.
Another lottery ticket.
Yeah. It's just another lottery ticket. You take that if you're the Montreal Canadiens because, even though you made the Stanley Cup final, you recognize, like they realize they're not good enough. They know they're not good enough. They are rebuilding. And so it's all anchored around that first round pick. Everything else that's there is just, gravy. You just throw it on there. It's nice. I mean, you're in Montreal, you want to have gravy and you got to have cheese curds, but the fries, are the first round pick right there. That's the foundation of that trade, if you will.
Like bag fries or bonus fries, as McDonald's has been touting in the last day or so.
No,
I call them bonus fries because you're like, oh, there's some bonus ones at the bottom.
I'm talking like thick cut, like quality,
like Kennebec,
like Five Guys fries.
Ooh. Good choice. Yeah. I don't know if I'd put Five Guys fries in poutine though. That wouldn't be my go-to. I
mean, I wouldn't turn it away. I think, but you're probably right. Yeah.
Like you guys maybe did a little too much here. Like let's tone it down a little bit in this meal. Like,
so for a team like Vancouver, who has been guilty in the past of obviously not recognizing that they're not good enough and waiting and not making moves on players like this. What do you think that Vancouver should be expecting for somebody on a return like a Ryan Miller or
JT Miller?
Sorry, JT Miller or a Brock
But
Besser or somebody like that.
What we get for Ryan Miller coming back? Are we in a three-way deal? Unretired.
All we got to do is travel back in time and trade Ryan Miller.
And we could have done it.
Could have done it.
If the return is that good, should we be expecting significantly more for a player like JT?
I think you have to. I think JT Miller is a significantly better player. He plays all three forward positions. He obviously is scoring at better than a point per game. He can anchor a power play. He can play on the penalty kill. Not necessarily well. That's a whole other topic, but he can play on the penalty kill. He's a great face-off guy. Like, he brings a lot more to the table than Toffoli. So, like, your starting position, if the Canucks are going to trade Miller, the starting position has to be like more than what Toffoli got. Like, you're starting with a first round pick, and then you're adding a quality prospect, not someone like Emil Heineman, but like a very good prospect who is going to make the NHL. And maybe you're also adding someone, a young player, 20 to 25, who can play in the NHL right away. Like, you're starting from that position, and maybe you're asking for more depending on who in the NHL is interested, which teams can offer more. So I think it doesn't necessarily like that doesn't really set the bar, because Miller is a much better player, because it just means that we should be expecting more. And if the Canucks can't get more, then there's really no reason to rush into a trade. And I think the same is true of Brock Besser, because he still has so much potential to be a high-end goal scorer. I think we've heard from others through the rumor mill that Besser would definitely get more on the trade market than Toffoli. But again, there's no rush to trade him if you're not getting that quality trade. And so that's really the key for the Canucks right now, is they can ask for whatever they want at this point, and they don't have to accept what others are just willing to offer, their dregs, whatever they don't want. The Canucks can ask for the moon.
Isn't that wild that, like, we're in February, so like 3 months ago, if you had this exact same conversation, we'd all be freaking out. We'd be
why would it be
what is Benning gonna, like, we're never gonna, like, this is just me. And now we're like, we have the power. We're in the driver's seat. Oh, you want to offer this? You can wait. We're going to decide if that's enough, and then we'll pick up the phone again. Like, it's this whole new world, really.
It does. It feels different, for sure.
It does.
Well, and I think if you look at the trade history with Benning, he was willing to kind of make trades quickly if it, got what he wanted. Like, he was willing to turn things around really quickly. If you look at like one of the first trades he did, Ryan Kessler, he made that trade pretty quickly. He could have, played hardball with Kessler and let things drag out to training camp, or forced him to, maybe Kessler would have held himself out. Who knows? But he could have waited longer to see if Kessler would have added more teams to his trade list. Maybe he wouldn't. Maybe that was the best they could get. But he was willing to just kind of make that trade happen very quickly, because he just wanted it done. That's what it felt like to me. And I think we've seen that
away trade.
Yeah, to a certain extent. And I don't think he necessarily got terrible value. I think he got the wrong defenseman in Spiza, but that's,
that's another show. Yeah.
Well, that's going back like maybe a little too far to, complain about things that are long.
I have a dead horse right over here, actually.
Yeah, but it's 2022 and we're talking about Spiza still. It wasn't a great pull. I mean, they could have brought somebody else in, right? I know what you're saying.
So I'm just saying, like, Benning was willing to make things happen quickly if he felt the need to make a trade. And I don't know that he showed a lot of patience when it comes to that kind of thing. He seemed to kind of have a one-track mind. Once he got set on doing something, he would focus all his energy on getting that done, and maybe other things would sit on the back burner instead of doing a little bit more multitasking.
So JT Miller, let's get back to Timothy.
JT Miller?
Jiller Tiller, I believe.
What did I say?
Are we still in the way back machine? I don't know if we're about to talk about Ryan Miller. Is it JT?
I said JT. Did I not?
You did. I was just checking. I wanted to make sure.
Jeez, man.
Giant
I get it right, and I'm getting ball busted. I don't.
No. Yeah, you're good.
So let's
Doing a
go
great
through a
job.
couple teams here, Daniel. You're in the know. You're connected. Sportsnet connected. Remember that? That was a good time. Way back.
I'm not
That's the
sports
way.
connected.
That's the way back connected. Let's look at the Rangers, for example. That's kind of the one on the tip of everybody's tongue right now. I mean, is there a chance that now I gave you the rundown yesterday, and I'm sure you looked like, man, this guy should not have a Canucks podcast. But like we look at there, obviously there's some sexy pieces. Like we all joked for the last month, like we could get Lafreniere. Like no. If they want it, they would create the trade, and yes, JT Miller would be involved, and there'd be a lot of other stuff going on. But like, is there like a world where like Capo Caco is available? I know he's hurt, but like who realistically, if that trade were to happen with New York, who realistically, or what is kind of the package that would come back?
And what would you approve? Like they offer this package, then you say yes.
It's always hard to say. Like trying to predict what happens with these kind of deals is really hard, especially when it comes to a blockbuster deal, because that's what it would be. JT Miller, you're talking about the best player on the Canucks right now, at least in terms of forwards. Their leading scorer. Like any trade that they make at this point is going to be a complicated one.
Right.
Because you're talking about the team needing to have cap space available. You're talking about if you're talking about the Rangers need to be willing to give up young prospects when they're still kind of rebuilding ish. Like they're a bit better than maybe they expected to be, but that doesn't mean that they're like done with their young players, that they can be just ready and willing to go all in on this one playoff run. So, ideally you'd want to look at someone like Braden Schneider, because you look at what the Canucks needs are. They need a top 4 right-hand defenseman who is young, who is going to slot in potentially alongside Quinn Hughes for years to come. That would be the number one thing that they would want to get, in my opinion, in a JT Miller trade. Because if you're trading away your leading scorer, your best forward, you need to bring back like the key piece that you need for a retool. And so it has to be a right-hand defenseman, in my opinion. And like the Canucks can ask for that from the Rangers, because the Rangers have multiple options there. It's not just one guy either. It's not just Braden Schneider. That would be like the top piece that you would ask for, because you're talking about a 20-year-old first-round pick. He's 6'2", I think he is. He's a big guy. He can skate. He can do all the things that you want to see. He's already in the NHL at 20, and he's holding his own. Yeah, you ask for Braden Schneider. And if they say no, well, then you look at someone like Nils Lundkvist. And Nils Lundkvist is a very good prospect. The one kind of downside to him is that he is on the smaller side. He's like 5'10" instead of 6'2" like Braden Schneider. But he's got a lot of skill. He's got a lot of he put up a lot of points in the SHL. Like he's a good quality prospect. He's a little bit older than Schneider at 21. He's turning 22. Like, so, you have these options if you're looking at the Rangers and what you could bring back. But to me, you have to be aiming for one of those 2 right-hand defensemen. They also have Zach Jones, left-handed defenseman, who's someone you could look at, but doesn't necessarily fit what the Canucks need.
What about K'Andre Miller? That's a name that I feel like isn't being brought up enough. I don't know if that's a guy like physically gifted, high draft pick, tall. I mean, skates well. I mean, I know he's left-handed, but is this a player that the Rangers are even considering to be available?
I can't imagine that the Rangers would move K'Andre Miller. Like he's already playing 20 minutes a night for them. Like he's like a key piece for them that they like they can't kind of gut their own team just to bring in another top end forward. As much as it would be nice that if the Canucks could target someone like that, I just don't see it happening. You have to look at what the Rangers would be willing to do. And on the right side, they've already got Adam Fox and they've got Jacob Trouba playing big minutes. And so you can ask for one of their right-hand defensemen that maybe is going to be blocked by those 2 in the future, you can ask for Braden Schneider. They'll probably say no to Schneider, and that's okay.
You all start at the top. That's a negotiation.
You start at the top, and maybe you go to Niels Lundqvist and you go, okay, if we're going to Lundqvist, then we need this other piece. We need an extra draft pick. We need an extra prospect, and you start to try to build your trade from there. You ask for the moon, and if they say no, then you ask for more pieces to try to make up for taking a lesser prospect.
Yes,
I think Lundqvist is a quality player. I don't think he would be a bad player to bring back. I just don't think he would be the key piece. To me, you get Niels Lundqvist, and then you're also asking for a first-round pick. You're also asking for a quality roster player. You're maybe looking at who do they have in their system that maybe is being overlooked, and the Canucks could try to bring in and develop in a way that he's not being developed in New York. You try to build a trade like that. You ask for Schneider, then they say no, and then you ask for more smaller pieces.
So I've got a list of like 2 other teams. One was Colorado, and I think if you don't get Cale Makar, then you just walk away. And then the other one, because really, if we can't get Cale Makar in a Canucks uniform for JT Miller, what are we even doing? Like, really? Like, what kind of GM, what kind of president do we even have if you can't even get the player? That's the guy you want.
I will say this. Like, the Colorado Avalanche actually have a couple of right-handed defenseman prospects that, maybe you do look at as well. Like, maybe they're not guys that are a centerpiece again, but they're not necessarily bad options as part of a trade. The issue with the Avalanche is, like, where are they getting the cap space to add someone like JT Miller? Like, it just,
and that's why it's got to be Makar or nothing. Yeah, that's why.
I mean, if you're looking at them, then you're looking at like Drew Hellison, who's like a really good defensive defenseman. He's a big guy. He might look really nice next to Quinn Hughes in the foreseeable future. Or then there's a guy like Justin Barron, right-handed defenseman for the Avalanche as well. He's got potential as well, and he could be, he's 20 years old. He's doing really well in the AHL as a rookie. Maybe he fits the bill. But again, if you're looking at the Avalanche, you have to look at all the other pieces of it. How does it make sense with the salary cap? Is it a deal that the Avalanche would be willing to do as well, that they could make fit? I don't know that they even need someone like Miller. They're pretty stacked at forward already. But again, if you're looking at these teams, they do have prospects that the Canucks might be interested in.
The only other team I had, because I did the rundown, so I can do whatever I want, was, again, another team that he's played for, and then we can go into another player, but Tampa. Again, they're like tight. They have basically $0 of cap space. So they would have to be moving, obviously, a roster player or 2 to make that work, and somebody that they can afford to get rid of. And I would assume as well as a draft pick. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they do have a first this year. And I mean, you're going to have to get creative. Again, probably another blockbuster where you're going to, maybe they get Cernak somehow. Who knows?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I think like Canucks fans are looking at this with a lot more optimism, is because it feels like with Jim Rutherford at the helm, you've got Patrick Alvin, a guy who's been in front offices and worked on a lot of different things. You've got some smart voices as advisors and as assistant general managers. It feels like there's a good brain trust there to put together something that might be a little more complicated. Maybe you're working with a third team to make the salary cap work, or there's different ways that you could make that work. And you bring up the Lightning, again, right-handed defenseman. Maybe you're seeing if Cal Foote would be available.
See, I told you, Ted. I'm not stupid. I said let's
Ryan's a big Cal Foote fan.
It's a lot.
I like Cal Foote. I get to see him. Yeah,
Cal Foote's fine. I'm not over the moon with him.
I didn't say he's like the centerpiece. I'm just saying you can put him in there.
Yeah, again, like it. When you're looking at what the Canucks need, first, if you're going to trade someone like JT Miller, you need to bring back the pieces that fill the holes in your roster to make you into a cup contender. So if you are trading him, you're looking for a right-handed defenseman, and maybe Cal Foote can be that guy, that top 4 guy. He's a big body. He can play well. Can he skate well enough to play with someone like Quinn Hughes? We've seen how he plays with Luke Shen, and Luke Shen can't skate worth a damn. So maybe maybe someone like Cal Foote can work with someone like Quinn Hughes and they can complement each other's weaknesses. But I don't know. I don't know if that makes any sense at all in terms of whether a trade could actually happen. I'm just saying, again, if you are making that deal, that's the type of piece that you need to be looking to bring back, along with other pieces, because
Right.
JT Miller, he should command that high a trade value.
You're looking for the next Seabrook to skate with Keith type thing for the next like 6-7
Basically.
years.
Basically, you are looking for someone to play with Quinn Hughes. That, in my mind, that's what you have to be doing if you're going to trade someone like JT Miller or Brock Besser or Bo Horvat, whatever top end piece you're looking at trading. It has to be to fill this major hole in your roster that creates kind of the backbone of your team for a decade to come.
What do you think about the crowd base and the fans' reaction to a trade like this? That's inevitably we feel like it's inevitably going to go down. I mean, the fans are obviously attached to these, extremely popular players. The team's won a little bit, although it's been ridiculously streaky since like December, or inconsistent, I should say. And there's all this sort of talk around Twitter where they just don't want to see guys like that go. Do you think that it's like that in the casual market? Do they understand that a guy like Miller or one of these big names is not going to survive this new edition of the roster?
I mean, anytime you're looking at a blockbuster trade like this, there are going to be fans that are upset no matter what. And I think it really sucks that it makes sense to trade JT Miller. Like it's not a good thing that it's the right time to trade JT Miller because he's a great player. He's in the prime of his career. He's playing fantastic hockey for the Canucks, and it would be fantastic if the Canucks were in a position to take full advantage of that.
But they're not.
But they're not. And so I think the Vancouver market, and at least in terms of the Canucks, they want to see a Stanley Cup contender, and there's an understanding overall that this isn't it. This is not a cup contender. We've seen what a cup contender looks like in Vancouver. It looks like the 2010-11 season.
2011 BC Lions. They were a massive cup contender. Massive. They ruined it for us.
Like, you're talking about a team that was literally the best at everything. They were the best at even strength. They were the best on the power play. I think they were like a fraction of a percentage from being the best on the penalty kill too. I can't remember exactly where that fell, but they were the best team in the NHL. And that's what it takes. And it still wasn't enough. So I think that there's enough smart hockey fans in Vancouver that they look at this team and they go, okay, we're not winning the Stanley Cup with this team the way it is. And Jim Rutherford has said as much. He's going, we've got some good pieces here. We don't need to completely blow it up and rebuild. We've got some good quality players that we can build around, but it's not good enough. Change is needed, and we have to make those changes to build a Stanley Cup contender. That's been what he said for the past couple months here now.
Mm-hmm.
He has been very clear that changes need to happen. So anyone who is looking at the Canucks right now and is blind to the idea that, that they're not good enough, they're missing what Rutherford himself is saying. Boudreau even has said like that the team needs to get better. They're not good enough. Changes need to happen. Or, it's not just the media coming from the outside or cynical fans saying it. It's the new leadership of the Canucks looking at this team and going, we need to change things. We're not good enough here. Like, we need to get better in these areas. We need better depth. We need more speed, all these different things. And so I think that there's enough smart hockey fans that they can understand, even when a fan favorite gets traded, that hurts. It doesn't feel good, but the idea would be to bring in the new fan favorites for the next decade to come.
Yeah, like it's not going to be pleasant, whatever they're going to do. And I've got a few other guys we can go over with on some trade assets that the Canucks currently hold. And I mean, it's not going to be fun. And we've chatted about this before. I mean, you don't want to see, like, we didn't want to see, we all wanted, Pavel Bure to win it. We all wanted Nazem and Bertuzzi to do it. The West Coast Express. We thought that was the best team. We wanted the Sedins and Kessler and Luongo. That would have been great. that we've had these iterations of this team, different versions of it, and we've wanted all those guys to win. It didn't happen. We realized at a certain point that those guys had to move on. Obviously, so did they. And sadly, they didn't get moved at the right time or for enough of the right assets coming back. This is a time where they actually have some assets, and it's going to sting a little bit, but that will only last for a little while because whatever they are bringing back, the thought would be is that you're right. It is going to be that next wave, and hopefully it's the point where we're talking about, man, I'm glad we made those moves when we did, because now the Canucks are a contender, which we can actually say, oh, I can't believe we lost in the conference finals, or I can't believe we got this far. Like that's what we're looking for. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen by April. It's not going to happen by 2023. These are moves. These are going to be thoughtful moves that needs to happen. And we have to be okay with it. I mean, you have to be. You're right. Otherwise, you're crazy.
And it can be tough too, because oftentimes when you're trading a quality player, you're bringing back things that are somewhat unknown. You're bringing back a draft pick that who knows what that player is going to be. You're bringing back a prospect that maybe hasn't done anything at the NHL level yet. And so there's a certain amount of uncertainty, and it can be difficult to look at that and go, okay, we got good value here. This player, I'm going to like this player. I'm going to buy that player's jersey. You don't know yet. Yeah. You don't know anything about that player yet. And you even look like, say, the Canucks trading Sven Baertschi. They traded away a second round pick. And at the time, it feels like, okay, we traded away a second round pick. That second round pick could be anything. But Sven Baertschi, he's a quality NHL player. He immediately was a top 6 forward for the Canucks. Great value in a trade. Except that second round pick turned out to be Rasmus Andersson, who is a good quality defenseman for the Calgary Flames. And so, you don't know. Maybe that pick would have turned out to be nothing, but it didn't end up being nothing. It ended up being the exact piece that the Canucks need right now, a top 4 defenseman, right-handed.
And then they wouldn't have needed Chris Tanev or Erica Branson, or don't want to go there. So I brought up the BC Lions when they won in the Grey Cup. But
what a team that was!
They were amazing. That was when the CFL was just like balls to the wall, awesome. Things have changed clearly. This is how I segue into the Super Bowl halftime show. We said we were going to talk about it. I don't think it was the greatest halftime show ever, only because there's a few other ones that I think overall maybe had more substance, but like get you in the feels and like make you feel like you're 18 again. It was pretty rad. Like, it was great.
Off the top of your head, you can rattle off a couple better ones?
Yeah, actually, I can.
Prince, sure.
Prince was amazing. I don't know why I remember it, but the Michael Jackson one, was it at the Rose Bowl that they had that one? The Super Bowl? Can't remember. Anyway, 92, Michael Jackson was like unreal. And then was it the Rolling Stones?
I didn't like the Stones one. I don't know.
But wasn't that the one with like Britney and Justin and everything? Or no, that was Aerosmith. Sorry.
No,
yeah. That was the one with Aerosmith. That was pretty rad too.
For me, it's like Prince is right at the top. That was kind of magical. When he's playing Purple Rain and it's literally raining, like, come on. It doesn't get much better than that. Beyonce bringing Destiny's Child back together, that was not bad.
They were happy about it too. They got paid.
Was it all the former members of Destiny's Child? I don't remember that one.
I don't remember if it was all of them, but it was definitely Kelly ones. Rowland and Michelle Williams. It wasn't the fourth one who everybody forgets.
But I've got a press pass. Sorry, I don't remember you from this band, so you can't.
The new fourth and the second fourth.
Yeah. Like Madonna was pretty good when she did it. Shakira and Jennifer Lopez. Like, there's been some good ones. Bruno Mars actually put on a good show.
The Bruno one was fun.
I gotta say, Bruno Mars put on a good show.
I remember liking all those ones, but I remember just watching this one and being like, I could not wait to see what song they're going to hit next.
I just think they did. There wasn't enough there. That's all.
No, because it could have been like 10 minutes longer.
Yeah, they gave us what we wanted, but it's almost just like, well, we got a game to play.
Yeah, you need like the Coachella Pac hologram coming out.
Oh, I was hoping they'd bring that back. It's like, we have the record of this. We could bring it back one more time.
For me, it was just like, it was good. It was good. And it hit some real highs. I thought Mary J. Blige knocked it out of the park with No More Drama. Like, she still got it. I thought Kendrick Lamar's set, his when he comes out of that dancing group, it was a bit of a different kind of feel to the rest of it. So it just kind of it felt good. I liked that. One of the things that just kind of felt like a missed opportunity is like they had the cars parked out front of the set, and I was just waiting for them to like get in the cars and like drive around or something, or like, are they going to bounce? Are they going to like, what is going to happen? And they just sat there and it was nothing. And I was
just a stale set.
Yeah. So that was one of the things, like there was a nostalgic aspect to it. Like, it was enjoyable, but like I felt like they could have done a bit more with it. And that's the only area where I kind of felt a little let down, is like the overall feel of it. There was like, we didn't see any of the choreography really of what was happening outside of the small little set. So it felt a lot smaller than other Super Bowl performances have been. So that's the one area where I'm like, I can't call it the greatest, when it just felt more confined than it perhaps should have been.
And that's what you're saying, like the grandiose elevated stage. And I know
I
what
mean,
you're
like I
talking
think
about.
of like
I
Lady
feel it,
Gaga like jumping off of the top of the stadium or whatever it was. It's just like, she wasn't actually, but there was a certain amount of spectacle to it, and it felt big and grand. And so I was missing some of that. Like Beyonce too, when she came out, like had the whole massive dance crew.
We weren't
behind
immersed
her.
in it, basically.
So instead it just felt a little confined, and so that was the only part that I felt let down by.
This is weird. Hey, we're talking like everybody's like,
a very professional, polished critique.
Yeah, but I mean, it was really good. It really was. But it wasn't. I think maybe we're just old. Maybe.
Well, no, that's the thing. I think we're the right age for it to be targeted directly at us, which yes means we're old.
Yeah.
But like, if it was targeted at our age group, and I don't know, I felt it was very good, but missed the mark. And I definitely think with a little bit more distance from it, it won't be seen as like the greatest ever, but it'll definitely be one of the better ones.
So you think it's probably in your top 10, maybe
it would be in my top 10 for
there.
sure. Yeah. I'll give it a little time to stew before I figure out where
You'll
it
have
sits. It's not like I have like this list that I keep updated every year of my favorite.
They brought it up. Crap! Now I got to do this list again.
I have it on a whiteboard so I can erase them regularly and rearrange them.
Yeah.
So the secret, they're saying that there was going to be a special guest, and someone leaked that 50 Cent was there. They showed him the picture of him hanging upside down like 2 days before in the rehearsals. I was really hoping it was going to be Blue Cantrell in the little hit 'em up style, but it did not happen. Which again, I'm okay with. But I felt like maybe they could have brought that back. Maybe.
I mean, the one thing I would say is that it did show like a decent kind of history, if you will. Like there was a good amount from like different eras, if you will.
Oh yeah.
Of hip hop. So it was like, you start with Dre, and then you're moving into Dre and Snoop Dogg, and then you're moving into like 50 Cent and the club hits, and then you're moving into Kendrick Lamar, and like you had that kind of progression. That was kind of neat.
It still hit.
Yeah,
it still hit. So yeah, I mean, this is what we do. This is we debate about the things. Who cares? But
I gotta say, I had no idea about the 50 Cent leak. I had no idea about that. So when he dropped and hung from the ceiling, I just was like, holy crap. Like I was stoked, and I didn't even like his stuff at all back in the day. I was just like, okay, this is the right guy for the right moment. This is the perfect thing to drop in and happen. This is hilarious, and I'm loving it all at once. But yeah, I didn't know about the leak before it happened. So
okay, I'm sorry that I threw some like
because
you
didn't leak it to me, so we're all good. I will say though, we are very white discussing this. I feel like I just want to be clear.
We've hit the meter. It's
how like white we are.
Yeah, it's like the meter when you're at the hockey game, right? Like
it's
getting pretty white here. Watch out, folks.
The white levels are just through the roof.
Off the charts. So before we get back to
whiter than that set.
Whiter. That was
very white.
That was a white set, yeah.
That was icy.
Even I feel whiter than normal.
That's true. Speaking of icy, the Olympics, they're almost over. They've been pretty wild. There's Monobob that came out this year, which I would love to try. Big air's just been off the hook. Ski cross, border cross, skydiving with crossbows, pretty much everything. What has been that? Oh, that's not a sport. I just threw that in, hoping it would be and that it would take off. But that sounds more like an Avengers style Olympic event. Ted, what's been your favorite event for the Olympics?
Like, I'm always a fan of like anything luge related. Like, I think all of that stuff to me is just so exciting. I think there's just such a fraction of time that separates the best from last and not even qualifying.
Right.
And the whole one bad run thing and like the G's those guys are pulling and I don't know how you get good at something like that. Where's the learning curve for not even that? Like, where's the learning curve for aerials? Like, you give it a go and it like didn't work out. That guy, he had potential. Do you know what I mean? So I think all this stuff, it's all great, but there's something about it's almost like that F1 car feel. Watching those guys just barrel down the ice, and you know that every 4 years they're pulling higher G's. They're like, they got to retire these old tracks because they just don't hold up to what they're specking out in the new tracks that come out every few years. So you know that's just producing more and more and more. It's getting faster and faster and faster. And I don't know how much higher you can go or how much higher the human body can take, but the fact that they do it in skeleton and a 4-man bobsled, and it's just all so exciting.
Like luge, I just love the fact, and I mean, everyone jokes about it, but like there's luge and you go feet first, and it's like the kid's like, I'm going to go head first. Let's make that a sport.
You're that crazy kid, right? Like my kid goes barreling down first, like head first on the crazy carpet to hit the jump, and like all the parents are like glaring at you.
I definitely love like the 2-man luge or the 2-person luge is also just, who thought that one up?
So it's like, it would be funny.
Well,
what would be hilarious? And people are going to talk about this. What if we did 2 people? Like, how did that? That's like one of those, we joke about the wait a sec guy. Like, we all remember that. Like, there had to be like a meeting, like, we need another sport. How do we what if we just stack 2 people on top, like pancakes?
Literally just stacked on top of each other.
Yeah. Not even like tastefully done. Like, that looks awkward. Oh, it's awkward. It's awkward.
Oh, it definitely is awkward.
And we're going to pull G-force as well. That doesn't check out at all.
It's when 2 become 1.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful.
Hey, can you shift over? I can't. We're going way too fast. This is how it's got to be till the
end.
If I
shift over, we are flying off this track.
It gets a lot worse than that. Daniel, like, what's been... do you have a favorite, or has like something changed for you this Olympics that's become your favorite sport?
Well, it's been tough to watch as much of it as I would like. But the one that I was able to watch with my kids that we all really enjoyed was the slope style.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That was fantastic to watch, especially getting to see 2 Canadians hit the podium in the men's event, and that was really cool to watch that with my kids to get them all excited about it. They were like jumping up and down when Perot got had his final run and just enjoying all of it. Like, that to me was the best event. It's just incredible to watch because they're doing just things that make no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're saying, like, how do you get started with that? You have to be starting going off these tiny little jumps, and then suddenly you're like, well, what if I twisted 6 times in the air while doing this? So it's like, sure, why not?
Next guy's like, what if we did 8? No.
It's fantastic to watch. It's very entertaining. I really enjoyed it, and it had the Canadian element too of having 2 Canadians hit the podium.
Yeah,
and watching it with my kids was special too. Like, they really enjoyed the skateboarding in the Summer Olympics, the first time that it was added, and my kids ended up wanting to try skateboarding, and they were terrible at it and were very frustrated very quickly. But maybe they'll want to do it again. But they just really enjoyed watching that. So it was a similar thing with the snowboarding, with the slope style. They just really enjoyed it, and they like the big air stuff as well, but the slope style in particular, because there's just so much going on. They're doing so many different things on one run.
They're just like missiles off that thing.
Yeah, that's just like, again, that's another progression thing, right? Like, because if you were to pull an event from like X Games or something like that from 8 years ago, it would be almost laughable for what they're doing then to now, right? It's the whole like Travis Pastrana thing and double backflips on motorcycles, where, I mean, it wasn't too long ago where guys were just doing the first one, right? I mean, so it just progresses so much.
you look at old X Games stuff and you see a guy just doing a big air and literally just going high, and they're like, "Whoa, look how high he got!" And it's like,
yeah, like do like 6 tricks with that too.
Like, he went really high and he held the board in a way that other people do not hold the board. Whoa.
Yeah.
It's really kind of cool to see that progression. It's similar in skateboarding as well, just pushing it further and further into like the limits of what the human body and these things that people put on their feet can do.
I love listening to the commentators on that too, and like they'll pull off like a 16-20 mute, whatever. And they're like, "Oh, that was pretty good." And I'm like, the dude pulled off a 16-20 and threw in a bunch of crap in there, and you're like, "Ah, that might be good to get him into the finals." Like that guy is a freaking like psychopath for even just thinking, "Oh, I should be able to do this." And you're thinking,
meanwhile, you're remembering back to like 97 trying to pull an actual 1080 and 1080 snowboarding, and it wasn't
and a video game. I'm just happy like if I can do like an ollie on a skateboard and thinking like there's hope for me. I maintain balance for that one kick move. And you're I'm gonna throw my body in there.
I don't know. I'd rather have the really critical, cynical commentators though, and rather than the ones who go, "Whoa, that was cool," like. Because every now and then you'll get like a commentator who's just like, "Whoa, he did that," and it's like, "What did he do? Tell me. I need to know." Like,
but it's when they blow up, though. It's when they blow up after, like, when the guy hits the big move, but he did it bigger than the big. Like, it's like we're gonna supersize whatever. Oh, I can't believe you did that. That might be, and I'm just like, that looked really, really close to what the last guy did. Like,
right. Like, I want to know, like, tell me those little things. Like, tell me, like, when they say, like, look, he held it for this long, but then he let go sooner than this guy so that he could land it. It's like, okay, that tells me something.
Like even an extra, you're totally right. Even an extra half rotation. Like, let me know, because I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah.
Or they put their hand down. Oh, that's a bad run. The dude landed and didn't die. Let's give him a medal for that.
It's like anytime I watch some reality TV competition show, I want to feel like an expert immediately. Like I want to be watching one of those cooking shows and have the judge say like, "Oh, well, he should have done this." It's like, damn right he should have.
The guy over
like he added too much salt. What was he thinking? Like it's the same thing in the Olympics. I want to feel like an expert by like the third run.
Yeah.
Like I want to see a guy go off a jump and I want to be like, "Oh man, yeah, he didn't hold it as long as he should have. Clearly,
backside cab, not good enough. Yeah,
man, you got to go bigger. Like I want to feel like an expert, and the best commentators like immediately make you feel like an expert because they're telling you what to look for.
Yeah, that was a backside cab 620. Yeah, that's not going to do it. That is not going to do it. And you're like, what does any of this mean? Like, what's a cab? Is that just a car? Like, is he flipping a car? I don't know. For me, it's monobob. I think I was saying to my wife the other day, I'm like, I know the reason that they added this is because there's the 2-man and the 4-man for men. And then they needed to add another sport on the women's side. I'm like, I kind of want to do monobob. Like, you just have to be a good track star for about 10 meters. Everything else, even keel. I feel we are all on a level playing field.
There is steering involved.
Oh, I know, but we all have.
Did you watch Cool Runnings?
We all have the capabilities of steering. So I figure as long as I can be faster than you for 10 meters, everything else we're on par. I can screw up, you can screw up. We're all in that same thing. Maybe a pound or two.
There's a reason why bobsled teams like recruit high end like 100-meter dash sprinters.
Yeah.
Like heavy Jesse Lumsdens.
You
are not going to be faster than them.
Have you seen me run to first base? No. Ted?
They don't.
Say it. Pretty fast. How many times have I beat out a throw to first? A lot. A lot. And there's some good semi-pro athletes.
I feel like you need to retract your statement and just let anybody drive, though. I mean,
no, come at
me. They didn't let Sanka drive.
And
he was the best push park cart driver in all of Jamaica.
That's true. All right, that's fair. Okay, so we'll finish off on a strong note. I had some other trade targets like Brock Besser and we got Hoglander Garland. Basically, as we've said before, like there's going to be some tough decisions they got to make. I think there are more than a handful of players that we all believe, some believe are untouchable. There's actually only a handful of untouchable players.
Are we all in agreement, though, that it's if you have to choose between the two, that it's got to be Miller over Besser?
I think you can trade both.
I'm just wanting to clarify what you're asking. Like,
I'm not asking.
That if you have to choose one over, you're gonna
trade.
to trade, that you got to move Miller versus Besser.
In my mind, it's obvious you have to move Miller rather than Besser. But I mean, it does depend on what teams are willing to offer. Like, there's no player that's completely untradeable. Like, if the right deal comes along, you trade anybody. But
except for Quinn.
I mean, even with Quinn Hughes,
what
if they offer Cale Makar?
Yeah, of course,
exactly.
Yeah.
And
See,
don't get me wrong,
because Quinn's dad takes over GM responsibilities in Colorado, and I'd
never
make that
trade
trade.
Quinn
Sure,
Hughes. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But like Miller as the older player, he probably gets more value right now. Like, he's at the peak of his value, whereas Brock Besser, a bit of an off year, probably doesn't get as much as he maybe should in terms of value on the trade market. So, I mean, again, anybody could be traded if the right deal comes along. But in my books, if all things being equal, you're trading Miller rather than Besser any day of the week. But the one thing that, you talk about all the trade targets that the Canucks have. You mentioned Connor Garland, whose name was in the mix for a little bit. Brock Besser, JT Miller, Bo Horvat even could be a potential, Tyler Mott obviously as well. For the most part, you don't have to trade any of them now. Heading into the trade deadline, the Canucks don't really have a lot of players that are pending UFAs. There's Tyler Mott, so you probably look to move him, especially if teams are willing to overpay to have a good quality bottom six forward, a top tier penalty killer, the exact kind of guy that maybe you want to have in your bottom six for a playoff run. If a team's willing to overpay at the trade deadline for Tyler Mott, yeah, absolutely, you move him. Maybe there's a taker for Alex Chason for a mid-round pick. You take that kind of deal. Maybe teams will want Luke Shen, and so you think about moving him. But again, you've got Luke Shen signed for another year at a sweetheart deal. $850,000 is nothing. So, he's a guy who you can plug into your top four if you need to. So yeah, you don't have to trade him either. They don't have to trade JT Miller right now. They've got him signed for another year. They don't have to trade Connor Garland. He's on a great contract through like 2026. They don't have to trade these guys.
Sell in the hot market next year.
So does do other NHL GMs look at the Canucks? Are the Canucks looking at it like anybody would with their fantasy football roster? Like, I don't need to make a trade. If you're going to come ask for a trade, you're going to have to overpay. And so should everybody be overpaying at this point?
Like, either overpaying or it has to be the right deal. Like I mentioned about the types of players that the Canucks need. The Canucks need a right-handed defenseman. The Canucks need more first-round picks. They need center depth. They need more speed. Like, they have certain needs. So if the right deal comes along, it doesn't have to be an overpayment. It just has to fit exactly what the Canucks need. But they can afford to be patient. And with the salary cap issue as well, some of the best teams that might be interested in someone like JT Miller, maybe they can't fit him under the salary cap right now without, a really complex deal that maybe makes things a little harder to get good value on the Canucks side.
Yeah.
Maybe you do wait until the offseason where teams can be more flexible with the salary cap. They can take a player like JT Miller, fit him in, make some other moves, and make the salary cap work.
You've got a bigger pool to deal with, too. You're getting guys that now no one's in the playoffs. Everybody's done. So now you're not just going like, well, these guys are making a run. Like, now you have a bigger pool to shop them into.
And I mean, teams will have other options as well in the offseason where there's free agents available. Yeah. There might be other players available in the trade market. But it might be easier to make a deal in the offseason and get the most value possible.
Sure.
And that goes for any of the players that we've talked about that are either signed through next year or the years beyond, or you've got Brock Besser, who's an RFA that they need to re-sign. These are players that they can wait to move. They don't have to make a deal. And they can take the time over the rest of the season as well, if they want to really evaluate where they fit in the future for the future of the team. Now, like,
okay,
if the
When
right
it-
deal comes
sorry, go
along, they can make a deal, absolutely. But they don't have to if they don't want to, or if the right deal isn't there.
I love that. I think that they're the right guys in place, obviously, to be patient and have clout to make those moves. But being that trade deadline is upon us, when the dust settles, who is off this roster in your heart of hearts?
Wait,
As
Just
Think-
through trade deadline.
No. Think about it. We're gonna do dudes and guys, and This is a teaser for the very end. We're gonna do dudes and guys.
okay, so you don't want me to answer?
Not
right
yet.
now.
You get to think about it. You get
Okay.
to think about it, and if you've got it already, that's fine. But this is a teaser. This or the kicker, as our friends in the visual media talk about. We're doing dudes and guys. You're clearly a big fan of the show, and I know that you listen religiously every single week. But Ted, just in case, like Daniel, maybe you got hit by a rock or something, and you forgot a few things. Can you explain to him?
Well, I don't have to explain it to Daniel, obviously, because he knows. So I'll just explain it to everybody.
Explain it to me like it's the first time I've heard it.
So basically, dudes and guys is, every team has a dude who was the dude for this week or this last game, who took over the game, who was the most recognizable, and for what reasons. A guy is just a guy. He was there. He was pedestrian.
Meh.
He could have been terrible. He was crappy. He was meh.
He's meh.
Whatever. And it's obviously your call on what constitutes a guy as well, but
yeah, there's
we
no
usually start this
parameters.
thing off with guys, and then we work towards dudes for the final. So if you had a guy who was just a guy
In the last week, we're gonna go with last.
who would you pick?
For the Vancouver
Just in the
Canucks.
last week.
Yeah, and it can literally be anyone on ice, off ice, whatever you're choosing. I mean, you could pick Finn. Nobody's picked him. But
I mean, I'd have to go with the guy who has been the guy, just a guy for the entire season, and that's Jason Dickinson.
oh, that's a good pick here. Yeah.
Stole my guy.
I'm sorry I stole your guy, but I had to go with Dickinson. Dickinson seems like a really nice guy, but he is just a guy. I was really actually expecting a lot more from him when he came to the Canucks. I was hoping he could be that third line checking center that freed up the other two lines to really focus on offense, make Bo Horvat stop trying to match up against top forwards, which isn't necessarily what he's best at, and maybe get him to produce a little bit more offense. But instead, Dickinson's just been there. He just has had no offensive drive whatsoever. He's been fine defensively, but he's also just not a good penalty killer. He doesn't win faceoffs. He's just there, and it really sucks because I really like him as a person. I think he's a really great guy, but he is definitely my guy for the past week.
I mean, hey, we've been critical of Pedersen and Besser and even Quinn Hughes on this show. It happens sometimes for reasons, for whatever, and usually we have the bump on the show. Like somebody calls out a guy, and then his next like 3 games that he tears it up. So sometimes it works here. I'm going to take the next one because I really hope that Ted wasn't going to take this guy. My guy for the past week has been Connor Garland. To me, he has been a lot of just flash lately. Like, yes, he's got a goal and assist, but before his little fun run, if you will, against Arizona and the Islanders, I mean, yeah, goal and assist, that's great. But before that, it's been like crickets. And I am a big fan of Connor Garland, but at the same time, I've been watching a lot of his game, just kind of singling him out, and there's a lot of great moves, a lot of deking around and creating space, but that's been about it. It just feels like there should be more to what he's bringing, and it kind of drives me crazy because I love to watch him like just shift around, and he does a lot of that, but it seems like there's no finish there. Like there's no ultimate end result. I'm gonna make sure that my Apple Watch doesn't randomly record a ton of stuff. This past week, like Connor Garland, you've been my guy. I love you to pieces. Please grow your beard back. I need it because just something's off. I'm
Need
not
with powers.
I thought he's been great this week.
Like he's been like again he's been doing
I
a
thought
lot.
this was like him getting back to where he used to be.
I have
And
my
you're saying
reasons.
like, oh no, this is like his worst week.
No, I want to see statistics. I don't want to see analytics. I want to see statistics. This
I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, he does a lot of really good things, but when he's in the offensive zone, maybe that last pass isn't there. He tends to like to try shots from bad angles and that don't necessarily go anywhere. I think he really needs the right line mates at this
Maybe,
point.
and that's kind of what I think. Like again,
Yeah.
he had there was a shift against maybe it was Toronto, and I think he like undressed a few guys in like one shift. Don't get me wrong, like I am impressed to watch him, but I feel like I need now the substance. I need the meat and mashed potatoes as Ted loves. I need that. So again, I've got my reasons, and maybe the bump and he goes on like a two goal 2 assist tear in the next couple games. That's what I'm looking for.
How are you feeling about that line? Because that's a very interesting line, obviously, that Garland's playing on with Pettersson and Puckholes, and it looks like there's probably a first line in place there for at least the foreseeable future. What do you feel like that? Do you like that second line?
I'd rather see Höglander there than Garland, personally. I think that Höglander brings a little bit more playmaking to that line. He also hasn't had those results that you're talking about. The points haven't necessarily been there, but I think he brings a bit of a different game than Garland does. As much as they have some similarities in terms of their size, their motor, the way they are aggressive on the forecheck and do a lot of similar things, I think that Höglander just has a bit more playmaking to his game than Garland does sometimes. That's just kind of my gut feel. Maybe I'm just too soft on Höglander, but I really think that he can be a really good fit with Pettersson and put Coles in long term. In which case, where does Garland fit? And that's kind of the question there as well.
And I had him on my little trade list, but like I said, I don't want to be here for 2 hours. So, Ted, who's your guy? Because I obviously took the one you were going to pick. So clearly,
in light of the work that Schenn and Burrows have put in the last little bit here, sort of just eating up minutes in that bottom pairing and playing good minutes with solid players, I thought that I would see more at the start of the season from a guy like Brad Hunt. He was a veteran guy. I mean, we felt like we knew that he would be a solid addition coming in. I thought he would eat up more minutes. I feel like he's been surpassed by Burrows and Schenn on this roster. Is that sort of like Alex Biega, seventh defenseman that always sort of sits on this squad that everybody seems to love so much. And he's out there an awful lot. I mean, he played 20 minutes 2 games ago. It was like 16 and a half last game versus the Leafs. I was shocked to see Hamonic out there a whole ton versus that Matthews line, which is like scary as hell. I don't know how that happens either, but I think if there's one guy that I got to signal, it's Brad Hunt. I don't know exactly what his role is, and if they're gonna sacrifice a roster spot for a younger puck moving defenseman, that shall not be named, playing in Abbotsford right now, that maybe could have played in that role, that could have slotted in for a guy like Hughes. I don't know if I'm going to go the route of just sort of defending and plugging in, the Hunts of the world. So that will be my guy for the week. Brad Hunt. I just don't notice him out there a whole ton. And sometimes that's a good thing for a D-man, but I just think that there's probably more that could be done in a spot like that.
Like, I was hoping for more from Hunt this season as well. I had not high hopes, but I thought that he could be a decent depth guy. I thought he could fill in, and he's been fine at times. At other times, he's looked like he doesn't really belong in playing major minutes, and I don't know why they are so insistent on using him on the power play. I understand that he's had success on the power play at other levels. Boudreau seemed to like him there with Minnesota. Like I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be a great fit. And I would much rather see Jack Rathbone. Like Jack Rathbone should be in the NHL, in my opinion.
He won't be in the NHL for a bit, folks.
Yeah, so Brad Hunt, good guy.
Is that just Boudreau being like, okay, we're gonna win versus the Leafs by squatting and counterpunching, and we don't need a guy like Rathbone to do that. We need to just be able to defend while we're defending. Or is that
he has said that, like, his justification for not calling up Rathbone was that their strength is defense, and that's just not true. But I can understand him, like, maybe wanting to play the guy that he knows over the guy that he doesn't know. Like, he doesn't know anything about Rathbone. Like, Boudreaux hasn't seen him at all.
Yeah.
Like,
He's going with his safe pick, right?
Hunt is familiar.
Yeah.
He knows what he's going to get from Hunt. And coaches like guys that they know, that they put him over the boards for, 15, 16 minutes a night. They know exactly what they're going to get. That's why Alex Biego was popular as well with coaches, because it's like, okay, if I plug him into the lineup, I know what he's going to give me. He's going to give me 16 minutes of great effort. He's going to work hard. He's going to move the puck reasonably well. I know what I'm going to get. He's not going to make any egregious mistakes. I'm comfortable with him. I think it's the same thing with Brad Hunt.
He's just Lyndon Vey. I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't go that far.
I know. Get his own dump-ins.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Daniel, who is your dude of the week?
I mean, I have to go with the easy pick. It's Thatcher Demko.
Man.
Like, how can it be anybody else?
Well, there are other players, but
I mean,
we went for like a month where you couldn't pick him.
I'm not going to be like Boudreaux giving the championship belt to Juho Lammikko after 51 saves from Thatcher Demko. Come on. That's not going to happen. I have to pick Thatcher Demko. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we went on a run where you couldn't pick him for a while, so good choice.
Okay. Well, like, the thing too is that he acted like a dude after that game too.
He's a pro.
Like, he's in the press conference and you're asking him about this like career performance, this like career defining performance. You're playing the Maple Leafs on Hockey Night in Canada at 4:00, so the entire East Coast is watching, and he puts on that kind of performance, and he's just like, yeah, they shot the puck and I had to stop it.
Yeah, are you kidding me?
Like, it's like, what are you thinking in those moments? I'm thinking like, well, I hope I stop the next puck. Like, he's just so chill and calm. Like, he has the perfect demeanor to be an elite goaltender. Doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. Just, he goes out there and goes, well, my job is to stop the next puck. Where's the next puck coming from? Time to stop it. And that's it. That's all he does. And I mean,
beep, boop, beep, boop, beep. Yeah.
He's not a robot. You see him in other situations where he's like joking around and he's smiling. He's having a good time. But like, when he's on the ice and he's playing, he's just locked in. And it's really funny. You talk to him too about it, and you'll be like, are you going to remember this? And he'll be like, ask me in a couple months. And it's like, fair enough. Maybe this isn't a big deal. Maybe we're making more of it than he will. Like, to him, no performance is good enough unless it's in like Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. Maybe he'll get emotional then. But
and he gets a W. Yeah.
He's just so chill and calm and good at what he does. He's the dude.
It's so crazy to me just how unflappable he's been, and he might not even be. I mean, he's probably not the best goaltender in this league. There's still 5 other guys that are in this conversation of just playing out of their mind hockey right now, which is awesome for the league, obviously. But it's almost like he sort of passed this torch where the Twins left, and it was like every game the Twins would do something and you'd be like, whoa, I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah.
You should be caught off guard. And then, that sort of shifted a little bit to Pettersson and then again to Hughes. And this year it's different. I feel like I'm just constantly noticing Demko do these little nuances of the game, which I didn't see before. And then this attitude that you're talking about. And it's just so crazy to me. And I think part of it has to do with the fact he's been there for a while. But part of that has to do with the fact that I think we've been blessed with such good goaltending in this market for like the last 10 years. We almost expect it. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, so-and-so's gone, next man up. Like, Jacob Markstrom's out there. He's got 10 shutouts right now. It's ridiculous.
It's insane.
So, and the market's not even talking about the fact that the goaltender that left this market now holds like 10 or 12% of the league shutouts. It's ridiculous. So we're just so lucky to be in this spot right now. But you're right. He's just so calm and so collected in there. And I don't know how to explain his game, but he just looks so impactful for a position that just waits for everything to come to him.
And he's got great style sense on the ice, because the Kirk McLean gear that's upcoming against on the 24th. I think they're rocking the skate.
He should have had the pad stacks for that game.
Oh, man. I cannot wait. Like,
the 24th, that was my scoop, by the way.
Oh, was it? There you go.
We heard it here.
I don't get scoops, but that's like
that was your deal.
My one scoop.
I love it. Oh man, I can't wait.
Authority that's when they're bringing it back. If they bring it back before, like at another time, I'm very sorry.
It's so crazy that like it's gonna happen. And then someone had posted like, we're gonna go through the cycle again. Like, why don't the Canucks have these as their jerseys? Like, great question. Let's just enjoy them that they even brought them back in the first place. Let's not be greedy. Let's enjoy it. And whenever they bring it back, it's a nice little treat. Just make sure that they're still available.
My understanding is that there is a distinct possibility that it could become the official third jersey.
I'm okay with it being a second third. Like, honestly, keep the pajama stick one. I'm okay with it on ice.
The NHL doesn't actually typically allow that. Most teams are only allowed to have
that's
like
a
home,
league
away,
thing.
and an alternate, and that's it.
Why is that?
I
some teams get it.
I don't know the reasoning behind it necessarily, but if you want to have like an extra jersey, like when the Canucks did the 50th anniversary where they had like multiple different jerseys, they had to get special permission to do that.
And like when the Habs did 100th and all that.
Yeah, they were only approved to have, like, they brought back the skate jersey and they were only approved to have it for 3 games. And they had to specifically like ask the league, like, can we have a 4th game? And the league said yes, and it was fine. But yeah, the NHL generally wants you to stick with like 3 jerseys, and that's
archaic. It's I mean, I get it. Don't get me wrong. Like, equipment managers and all that. Like, there's a lot of logistics. I get it. I mean,
and do you want it to become like? I mean, I think the NBA does like some fantastic stuff with some of their more bizarre jerseys that they do. I think they're a lot of fun, but I mean, it can also get a little out of hand.
Oh, for sure. Like, well, here's our urn, and here's our city, and here's our this week's jersey. Like,
here's our
this week's jersey. That's we're just like,
NFL's probably the perfect example of how to use it.
Yeah, so they get it figured out. But we gotta stay on track for like the last 5 minutes here. Ted, who's your dude? Let's try to keep it short and sweet.
I'm gonna go with the aforementioned Juho Lammikko.
Solely because he is the new champion of the team.
I mean, I like it. It's not even the fact that he scored in that game, which was great, but I mean, the guy's playing some tough defensive zone start hockey on a line that's sort of solidified itself over the last little while, and a big center in a spot that we need a center to be in. And I mean, he looks the part. I don't know, how much are we expecting from a guy like Juho Lammikko?
Juho Lammikko,
and a little bit of production too. So I mean, I'm fine with this guy. I think it's. I mean, he could ultimately be the reason why it's okay to move a guy like Dickinson, and just because he didn't pan out in the spot that he's in. I know they're in a little bit of a different role, but I mean, I like what he's doing in the interim, and I think I'm okay with that. So I'm gonna, partly because it's funny, partly because it's also true, Juho Lammikko.
I would like to get. I hope he eventually gets the Harner Ryan Singh treatment, like Kyler Yamamoto and some of the other guys get. Like, Lammikko. Like, I need that extra level from him. So
Lammikko. That
exactly. One. I need something to that ilk.
I will say, like, I don't have high hopes for Lammikko long term. I think he just doesn't have the touch. He doesn't have the skill level necessary. But
he's a fun story.
Man, he's a lot of fun too. Like, you talk to the players, they love Juho Lammikko. Like, he is just he brightens up the room. He's a fun character. Like, he's just a very joyful guy. He loves playing hockey. He's fun to be around. Like, that's the kind of guy you kind of want to have on a 4th line. You want a guy who's like effective on the ice, but is also just kind of brings up the spirit of the locker room as well. Because if you're going to have, like, there's dozens upon dozens, there's hundreds of players that could play on an NHL 4th line.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why, like, everyone talks about 4th liners as, he's a good character guy. It's like, well, yeah, if he wasn't a good character guy, they'd get some other guy who's just as good as he is and is a good character guy.
Or he's a lot more talented and he's higher up
he reminds me so much of when Kawasaki was stealing starts in Toronto for the Blue Jays. I mean, he was just adequate, but he was just like, he was a guy that you were like, man, I'm stoked to see that. I just want to see this guy more in the lineup. And the players obviously love him. And I love that the players love him. So he just reminds me of that. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's too bad, really. Like, one of the things that we've kind of lost with the current situation, like, media is not allowed in the locker rooms. It's all Zoom calls and stuff. I think you're kind of missing out on getting to know some of those characters a bit more.
Yeah.
One of the things when the media's in the locker room, like, you can just do a one-on-one with a guy just off the cuff and get to know a guy, get a good story out of him. And suddenly, it feels like right now, all of the Canucks media are mostly just telling the same stories about the same players over and over again, because that's who we get to talk to for the most part in all these Zoom calls.
Yeah,
where I feel like if you're in the locker room, like you can go, well, today I'm going to go talk to Juho Lammikko. I'm going to do a story about Lammikko. I'm going to go talk to Tyler Mott, and we're going to get a story about Tyler Mott. Like, you'd get a lot more variety when the locker rooms opened up. But with the current situation, it's not happening. So
we don't get to see Ryan Kessler photobombs or anything like that.
Yeah, you're missing out on some of that fun. I think like a character like Juho Lammikko, who's just a really fun guy, and anytime you get a chance to talk to him, he's just very delightful, very joyful, big smile with the missing teeth. Like, I think Canucks fans are maybe missing out on some of those stories right now, and it's just kind of too bad.
As long as he's rocking the belt in his next interview, I think we're all happy.
Like over the shoulder, the whole thing.
I'm just like walks it in,
promo.
or just dragging it on the floor. That like not to like not to make light of it, but just drag it on the floor like, oh, the champ's here. Champ's here. This guy means business. Mine's an easy one. If anybody that listens to the show or watches, it's Brock Besser. What a game he had against Toronto. He's putting up goals against the league leading Arizona Coyotes, and he had a pretty decent game against Chicago as well. Like, Brock Besser is just, I love the guy. I love that he's producing he's just, it looks like he's having fun. It looks like things are coming easy to him right now. And I mean, there are a lot of fun stories going on with this team right now. And yeah, there's fighting for a playoff spot. Yeah, right. It's statistically, they're fighting for a playoff spot. We all know better than that. But it is a lot of fun to watch Brock, and I would hate to see him leave if that ever came. But I also know that there's value there. But for this past week, Brock Besser, you've been my dude. I appreciate you keeping me on your hype train. So thank you so much.
I think people kind of miss with Brock Besser too, because like when you watch him and you only really notice him when he's got the puck, then maybe you start to pick apart his skating or whatever. You're looking for flaws. But I think like if you watch him throughout a game, like game after game, he is such a smart player.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way that he knows the right places on the ice to go. Like I love watching him play, not just because like he's a goal scorer and he does some great things with the puck. I love watching him play because he's just so smart, and
Absolutely.
he just goes to the right areas on the ice at the right time. Like he's so easy for other players to play with on a line, like, because he's where you expect him to be as a line mate. Like, I really love Brock Besser. I love watching him play. Like, I think it would be a shame if the Canucks traded him, and I hope they don't.
Mm-hmm.
But
I second that. But
that's my.
I'll take a Stanley Cup over. I mean, I love him, but I will take a Stanley Cup over a Brock Besser.
That probably drops us into that question.
All right.
Of when the dust settles. Post-trade deadline. Who is off this roster?
Well, I wrote about it a little while ago, just because it is a tough question to answer. I think we could see a lot of players move if the right deals come along, and I mean, we talked all about that. I think you could see as many as 6 players getting moved, and when I wrote about it a little while ago, I thought, Miller, Halak, Mott, Pearson, Chason, and Hunt, I think all 6 of those guys could get moved. But there's also a distinct possibility that maybe only 1 or 2 of them get moved, because Halak has a no movement clause, and I don't think he really wants to waive it. But if the right deal came along, like, would he say no to getting traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning, who could use a better backup? I mean, it's hard to say no to getting traded to the 2-time Stanley Cup champions.
Like, we'll go for a third one. Like, I don't have that one, so maybe.
I feel like if the right deal came along, Halak might be willing to waive his no move clause. Miller, again, they don't have to trade him right now. I think that as much as I like Tyler Mott, and my dad would be very upset with me right now, he loves Tyler Mott. If someone wants him and they're willing to offer a 2nd round pick, yeah, you move Tyler Mott, because there's bottom 6 forwards that are just as good as Tyler Mott that you can get in free agency or off the waiver wire. You can sign them as a European free agent, a college free agent. Like, there are other players that are out there who can bring similar value as Tyler Mott. I think Pearson, they never should have re-signed him in the first place. So I think he's a player that the Canucks would want to move because he could free up some cap space and is also just, kind of there. He's a guy, he's a middle six forward who's being asked to maybe do a little too much. And then Chase on and Hunt, if you can get anything for them, sure. Like they're guys that can be moved. There's not much reason to keep them around if other teams are willing to offer something for them. So those are the players that I think are most likely to be moved. But there's a distinct possibility that only one or two of them get moved.
There you go. You heard it here. You heard it here first. Well, you heard it here because we asked. Here. Daniel, thank you so much for coming by. You brought your enthusiastic characters with you from the Muppets. We're quite thankful for that. Had a great chat about rap music, and really, that's all anybody ever comes to the show for. Quick second, take a second here, and you can shamelessly promote yourself because we like to know. I mean, we would be better off doing it on something that you write, but in this case, you never know. Maybe this is the first time someone's finding. Who knows? It's a weird place out there.
Who knows? This might be the first time someone has seen my face and they realize that they don't hate me as much as they thought they did. I don't know. I'm Daniel Wagner. You can find me on Twitter at Passitabulis. You can find me on the internet at vancouverisawesome.com or passitabulis.com. You can find me on Instagram, never posting, at Passitabulis. You can find me on TikTok, never ever posting, at Passitabulis. And I have my first album coming out soon. So if you're into pop punk and rock music, I have an album coming out soon. So
sounds awesome. How do we find it?
DanielWagner.bandcamp.com. You can find my past releases there, and then the album, when it comes out, will be there, and on Spotify and on iTunes and YouTube Music and Amazon Music, whatever places. MySpace, probably not. I used to be on MySpace back in the day. I had a band page on MySpace. I'm that old that I actually had a band that was on MySpace, but
were you Jars
not
of Clay?
anymore. No, I was not Jars of Clay, though I did see them in Chilliwack once. Yes. That was a good show. That was a
story.
I'm not gonna lie. Jars of Clay holds up.
This is great. This is good times. This is good times.
Sometimes you need a banger about Noah's Ark.
Hey.
That's not what Flood was about. But I appreciate that deep cut there. Well, deep cut. It was their biggest hit.
It was literally
their biggest hit. That was the only cut they made, I think.
Oh man, no.
Sorry. Anything outside of that market.
Yes, that's fair. Their second album was their best. Anyways, that's a whole other.
This is good. This is
Much Afraid. Listen to Much Afraid. Beautiful album.
There we go. Daniel, thanks so much.
Jars of Clay.
Yeah, you never know. This is what people come for. Like I said, thanks so much for coming by. We are West Coast time, so on the East Coast this will be really late, but it's just really late on the West Coast. So thanks for coming by. Appreciate it. Ted, any final words on yourself?
Just we appreciate you coming on. You're a very, very good guest. You had lots to say, and it wasn't too hard to keep the conversation going. So we appreciate you.
I appreciate you having me on. I enjoy talking.
This is
I enjoy the
platform.
Sound of my own voice.
This is a great platform for it. We enjoy also that. So this is the PP1 podcast with Daniel Wagner from Passitabulis. Make sure you check us out on the Dean Blundell Network. Thank you to Move Health and Wellness as well for sponsoring our dudes and guys. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Ted, make sure to share the Spotify and Instagram because apparently that's a popular thing to do. Amazon, Google, all those things. Make sure you give us a rating or review where you can because we do appreciate it. And I'm not going to talk about any algorithms because I don't know exactly how that all works. So on behalf of everybody in this show, the Muppets, Tupac, and Biggie, I'm Ryan, PP1 Podcast. Peace out.